Hello, everybody. Welcome to my new Sunday market breakdown. So let's start with the DXY as usually. What we saw last week was we had a nice FIB completion from this high to this low, minus 27 FIB completion, because this was your first leg, second leg here, and then the third leg. So this was one leg for me because the wicks from this lows here go over into each other. So this one leg, then you have the high, lower low. So you have that bearish W, highest wicks didn't broke here. So that's why this bearish W played out to the minus 27 FIB completion from the weekly. So now we have a weekly FIB completion. We are bearish still on the weekly. We have that major weekly bearish candle close. So we can expect still major downside momentum for the DXY also. And if I look on the daily, yeah, what you can see is major bearish W here. We can potentially form a pullback after that impulse, some correction, maybe till the 61.80, till this first point of structure here, this one, to find some clear resistance. So this can act like support, and now this can act like resistance. And if you put your horizontal line here, this was acting as clear support, resistance, resistance, support, potentially resistance. So this can happen. So that's why I'm thinking that we have now that pullback because the sprinter got tired. Maybe we have that indication of bullish candle, so we can go to the upside for that potential correction. That's what I can see right now for that daily chart. So on the 4 hour, we're not looking at this because, yeah, it's too far away from our zone of interest. So nothing to see about that much. Then the trades I'm looking at, NZDUSD, that's a trade I will look at when the market will open. So on the weekly, what can you see? You have here this kind of bearish W. You have this major impulse. You have your correction. So this is a major correction against that impulse, against that trend. We are indication of bullish because we broke this weekly high here. We broke this with this candle. So this is indication of bullish. So that doesn't mean we are confirmed bullish because we can go still to the downside. So that's why I'm also looking at this weekly high from that bearish W here, this weekly high week, where the banks like to take some liquidity, that we can potentially find some support here at this clear resistance. So that's why I'm looking at that. And if I go now to the daily, on the daily, you have now that indication of candle, bearish candle. So that's very nice to see. And on the 4 hour, when we had our point that we touched the weekly reverse point zone, you have here this high, new high. We needed to close below that 4 hour reverse point. We had that, not yet tapped in, but if we can still tap in, it is still valid if we are not running around that 1%. So it's still valid to take. So I will still set my limits there. So it's still valid to take. So then USDJPY, it's kind of the same, but I will more look to NZDUSD because it's looking more good. Because on NZUSD/GBPY, you could also take here that weekly liquidity zone trade. This was a loss, but this one is more clear because this is a clear shoulder one, head shoulder two. These were the same lows wicks. So this one leg, and now you can have the potential shoulder one, head shoulder two here. So this one can also play out, but NZD/USD is looking more good to me. So if I go on the weekly, you have this weekly bullish M, weekly low wicks that got touched. We came back in it. We closed back above that, so very nice. And on the daily, we have that also indication of bullish candle close. After an impulsive move, we can receive some correction, counter to the trend, and then going more potentially to the downside potentially because the weekly is still bullish. Then EURJPY on the weekly. We had that very big bullish impulse, and we had that FIB completion from the low here to the high, minus 27 FIB completion. We can still touch that weekly first point of structure or resistance that can become support because we have still room after that impulse. After such impulsive move, we can receive some correction and we can trade on that for potentially more downside momentum to that weekly zone. And if I go to the daily, what can you see on the daily? We have that shoulder one, double top, head, shoulder 2, and we are now going back after that impulse, and we can form that head and shoulder. So that's the region where I'm looking at. I was also taking the long previous week, so that was playing out nicely. Then GBPJPY also a little bit the same. On the weekly, you have that very big bullish impulse, bull run. You have that minus 60, 80 pip completion. If you take your fib from this low till this high, minus 60, 80 fib. Weekly bearish candle close as indication. Still some space till this first point of structure here. You have still have enough space to go to the downside to trade on the downside correction. And on the daily, you have here that shoulder 1, head, shoulder 2, that can potentially play out to the daily minus 27. So that's the trade I'm now looking at. So I hope you have a nice trading week and see you next week. Bye.